Hello, welcome to Sportsbet TV with me, Paul Alster. I'm looking ahead to the action scheduled across Britain and Ireland on Saturday, the 9th of December, where I'll be offering you two free selections here on this service. If you happen to be stumbling across this tipping channel for the first time here at YouTube, then please press the subscribe button just below the screen, and it costs absolutely nothing. You'll then be kept in touch with all my free selections, which are available every week, and also at feature festival meetings as well. Well, it really has been a very good few weeks for the service. 2 weeks ago, we had just one runner because one was a non-runner, and that was Moriko Devasi, who I recommended at 16 to 1, and it won at Exeter, which is great. So you should all have been quids in for that. And then last week, there were two selections, and the first of them, Solnet, who I recommended at 10 to 1, a first ever ride over fences for Connor Stone Walsh. He gave it an absolute peach of a ride. I mean, if this kid doesn't become a proper jumps jockey, then, I'll stand kicking, because he's got the lot. He reminded me a bit of Frankham, the way John Frankham, the way he so stylish. Goodness me. I think Connor Stone Walsh is one to really keep on side while he's claiming and going forward. And Solnes won at 7 to 1, having been back down from the 10 to 1 that I suggested. So it's been quids in, and it's also been quids in as well at my subscription service Out in Front, which is going great guns. And last weekend there, I tipped a horse called Hansard, which won very nicely at 15 to 2. We also had a couple of other very nice placed horses, including on the Sunday, just the one recommendation last Sunday there, Frontal Assault, who was placed at 14 to 1. So plenty of profits there as well. And if you want to get involved and give yourself an early Christmas present, then just check the link in the box, the description box below this screen. You can sign up. It costs £25 a month. There's no tie-in. I'm happy to say that most people are sticking with it and enjoying the profits that are coming from that service, where I tip for racing every Saturday and just about every Sunday, and often a few midweek suggestions as well. And of course, there's extensive tips as well at all the big festivals. And as we're coming up to Christmas, and there's been loads of great racing coming at Kempton and Chepstow, and of course over in Ireland as well, there's going to be a lot of tips offering Out in Front, as well as a few to complement them here free at Sportsbet. Well, on Saturday, there are two selections I have for you, and the first of them goes at Navan in Ireland. And the 142 race, there is a 3-mile, 1 furlong listed handicap hurdle. The going is forecast soft to heavy, so this really is a race where stamina is going to be important. There are 17 runners. At the time of this recording, there's no prices up. The bookies always are reluctant to go up early on Irish handicaps, especially at the weekend handicaps. And so there's a little bit of guesswork going on, but that's really what tipping and horses and analysing form is all about. It's educated guessing, really using your skills and all the kind of ideas you have about the way horses are going to run in order to kind of price up a market for yourself. That's how I do it, and then come up with what I think is going to be the value and beat the odds. Well, one horse who is a proven stayer at this trip is a horse called Beacon Edge. He used to be trained by Noel Mead. He made a winning start for the Red Hot stable of Gordon Elliott a few weeks ago. He stayed on to beat a horse called Cashback, and that one won earlier in this week to frank the form. That was in a conditions hurdle at Thurles. It was 7 weeks ago, actually. And Beacon Edge is a talented horse, and if he's been revitalised by the change of scene going to Gordon Elliott, he could easily run another very big race, despite the burden of top weight. Now, Gordon Elliott has another 5 runners in the race. Maxim is likely to be in the shake-up. He toyed with fences in his 3 most recent starts, but to me, he doesn't really look a natural, although he did win a race at Tipperary in May. And I reckon he could go rather better back over hurdles with a run under his belt. And the best of the other 4 Gordon Elliott runners, well, possibly a horse called Will Do, who's unexposed. He's coming up through the ranks. He's just landed a hat-trick, so going for the 4-timer. He's won a bumper and 2 staying novice hurdles, his first time in a handicap, off a mark of 128, so there could be more to come from him. Now, a horse that most of us know pretty well is Espinito Bello, trained by Barry Connell, who last season won the Leinster National over fences at Naas. and he seems to really love racing at Naas because he reappeared there over hurdles, over a trip that was thought of as a bit sharp for him, 2.5 miles, but he stayed on very strongly to win at 20-1. He's gone up £9, and they've kept him over hurdles here. This mark still favours him, and the extra 5 furlongs is definitely going to be up his street as well. And then of others to consider, well, in an open race, Stuart Crawford has a decent mare called Ailey Rose, who's making her seasonal return. And then there's Somerville Boy, who looked as though he'd improved for the run when he was well beaten last time behind Espinito Bello. I think he can run rather better this time. But on to my choice. Well, the leading jumps owner in Ireland, or certainly one of them, he's still probably numerically at least the leading jumps owner, is JP McManus, of course, the great JP. Those green and gold colours have been dominating Irish and much of British racing for the last 3 or 4 decades. And he runs 3 in this race. He's got one trained by Pat Fahey called Drop the Anchor, who's quite interesting because it runs in blinkers for the first time, having just some very ordinary form figures, so it could improve. And Padraig Roach has Shadow Rider, who on the best of its form, including a third at Galway in October, will be in with a chance. But the one I like is Canal End. And Canal End is trained by Peter Fahey and is the mount of Mark Walsh, who is, of course, JP's contracted #1 jockey. And the fact that he's on this one suggests that this one is the one that Mark Walsh probably likes best of the 3. Now, Canal End is a horse just starting out in his career, really. He's only a 5-year-old. He's put up a few really promising efforts in maiden hurdles last season before he beat 23 rivals at Fairyhouse in April, landing a 2.5-mile maiden hurdle there with a little bit in hand. And then he came back from his summer break over 2 miles at Galway, which would have been a bit on the short side for him in October. And he stayed on very well in the closing stages, having originally been outpaced as they started to climb the hill back towards the home straight. He was coming home very well, as we say, going on at the finish, coming through horses and finishing better at the line than anywhere else during the race. He was travelling better at that point. Now he's stepping up over a mile. That's a huge rise in trip. But to my eyes, the horse is all about stamina. So I think he could run a very big race. He's only £1 higher. Now, I've estimated the odds, and I'm hoping that 6-1 might be available. And there should be plenty of firms that are certainly shaping up to pay 5 places. So Canal End is my choice. I hope he's a sporting price, and we can get on him each way at Naas in the 142 on Saturday. And then my second selection, well, that is back in Britain at Aintree. It's the last race of the day there, 3:15. The 2.5-mile handicap hurdle on soft ground with 11 runners. It's going to be very chilly by then, and it'll probably be getting pretty dark. But I hope it's going to be worth waiting for this race. They were betting 4-1 the field last time I looked, and that just basically tells you in an 11-runner race how open this looks. The early favourite being the Paul Nicholls trained Sonagino, progressive handicapper last season. He's already run well both starts this term at Chepstow and Cheltenham, and most recently he was fourth to Iberico Lord, who got £6 off him in the Grade 3 Greatwood Hurdle. Well, he runs off the same mark, but he's got 12 stones to carry. That's a lot of weight, but he does have a touch of class, I suppose. Stuart Crawford, who I mentioned previously, well, he has got a couple of runners in the race sent over from Ireland, both in the green, dark green and lighter green of Simon Winnear and Isaac Soward. Home St George is one, probably the preferred of the pair with Darryl Jacob, the contracted jockey on board. He ran well first time out last season as well, Home St George. So the fact that he's been off for 7 months, it shouldn't worry you really. Crawford's other runner is Larky Sark, who last season won a couple of novice hurdles. And then he ran really quite nicely over 2 miles on his reappearance at Navan, finishing 6th of 20. I think this trip will suit him. You've got Benson for Scottish trainer Sandy Thompson. Didn't have much luck on his chasing debut, I'm afraid. His saddle slipped late in the race. He still finished 4th, but the fact that connections have quickly come back to hurdles suggests to me that I think he's not a natural over larger obstacles. And if he's none the worse for that experience, then he should go well because he'll have that run under his belt. Dan Skelton has Vicky Vale, who ran really well first time out this season, second in a mare's handicap hurdle, a pretty good event actually at Wincanton. And that was her first run since a breathing operation. It appeared to have worked. And then the Weatherby winner, Basher's Reflection for the Ben case, gone up £7, but definitely not out of it. But my choice here, well, I'm banking on a good run from an old timer. And the old timer in question is called Volatile Rev, and it's trained by Ian Jardine in Scotland, and the out of Dan McMenamin, who's a very good young rider. I think this horse could be revitalised by a return to Merseyside. It's a horse that in his day has been really, really talented. He originally was trained by Willie Mullins, and he won a Grade 1 novice chase for Willie Mullins back in the day. Of course, he's not the same level of horse, but he still appears to have quite a lot of ability. And last November, 15 months ago, he ran an absolute stormer here at Aintree, over 2.5 miles, where he looked to be all over the winner. He traded very long odds on in running at the last, but in the end, he was just worried out of it by Dashel Drasher, no less, who, of course, we know is a very, very talented stayer. And remember, he just held off Paisley Park last week at Newbury in that very high-class race. So the fact that Vodarev gave him a proper run that day suggests that on his day, he still is capable of running well. And after that, he believe it or not, he took on Constitution Hill in the fighting fifth and finished fourth. So, you know, he's a horse with ability still. There's no Dashel Drashers or Constitution Hills in this race. Now, despite that good run at Aintree last year, overall, he's been coming down the weights, and he did take advantage of that as recently as April this year when he won at Ayr over 2.5 miles, but his mark still continues to fall. And he ran well enough first time out this season when he was fourth at Carlisle. That to me suggested he still retains enough ability. And then he really caught the eye at Musselburgh, travelling very well as they left the back straight. Came towards 3 out, brought wide to come with his challenge, and then he made a real Horlicks of the third last. He made a bad mistake, turned him sideways actually. And then after that, he was never going to get back in the race, and he wasn't beaten up by his jockey, thankfully. Now, I think if he had jumped the third last, he would have really gone quite close to winning that race. So the fact that he's finished down the field, don't let that put you off. I think he still has the ability to go well. He was originally 16-1, but that's been taken. He's now best price 14-1. That's available with 4 places, with Bet365, with Paddy Power, and with the Betfair Sportsbook. And I'm hoping that old Vodarev can roll back the years and get up ahead of steam and give us a really good run for our money in the finale at Aintree on Saturday. So there we have it, my 2 for this weekend. If you're interested in more tips, all of them at very good each way prices, then check out the subscription service out in front at Patreon on the link in the description box just below this screen. But for now, from me, Paul Alster here at Sportsbet, it's bye-bye for now. I shall see you same time next week. Bye-bye.